Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator. In this episode we are back with the TBM-850. We haven't flown in quite a while. I miss this aircraft. I've absolutely fallen in love with it. I think it is my favorite in the simulator to date. There's just something about the way it feels, the way it handles, all the different failures and features that come with it. Makes the aircraft absolutely spectacular. Now we're not doing anything crazy today. We're just doing a short hop from Tucson over to Phoenix, but we're going to do the full cold and dark to full cold and dark all the way down to the destination. So stick around guys, because we're also going to be using my Overkill's TBM-850 tutorial guide to walk you through the process. You guys will see a glimpse of that here in just a minute after these words. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Alright guys, so for anyone who's interested, this is what any one of my tutorial guides looks like. They have absolutely everything you need to complete the flight from cold and dark state to cold and dark state at your destination. Every single one of my guides are like this. Patreon level tier 2 and above, as stated in the intro, will give you access to all of my guides. It is not just a one guide shop. You get all of them for a subscription to the Patreon site. So if you guys are interested in any of the aircraft that were listed previously, please consider joining me on Patreon. You guys make more than what you can imagine possible for this channel and for my growth, and I really appreciate the continued love and support to all of my subscribers and supporters. Alright, so it is a nice, beautiful, early, cold and crisp morning here in Tucson, so let's go ahead and get the aircraft buttoned up and get on out the door here. Let's close up the ladder here. Get our door closed. Close that cabin door. And let's close the cockpit door. Nice and cold outside, so we shouldn't have to worry about any overheat or anything like that. Everything should work absolutely gorgeous. Oh, I am messing with my screen. I did not mean to. All right, so let's get after this here. So we're going to start out with the pre-flight cockpit preparation, so let's just get right after it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that crash bar is in the up position, source selector is set to the off position, generator to main, and we're going to make sure the starter is off and ignition is in auto or off. Either one is acceptable. Exterior lights should all be off here. Gyro instrument should all be off. Emergency lights. Let's go ahead and peek on over here. We're going to roll the emergency light rotary up. Make sure everything comes on, and then bring it back down, turn them back off again. Very simple process. Now, the next one is critical, guys. It has bitten me more than once now as a failure, and that is making sure that all of your circuit breakers are pushed in. So let's go ahead and do a quick check on those. And they all look good. And like I said, this is a failure that has actually gotten me once. All right, let's keep moving down the list here. All right. So stepping on downstairs, junk. We want to make sure all of the de-icing switches are off. Initial separator is in the off position. Landing gear handle is down. Autopilot trims is off. Radio master is off. Bleed air system. Let's scoot on over a little bit. Let's get that yoke out of our way. Bleed air is off. Air conditioner is off. And the dump switch is guarded. We also want to make sure our ram air is pushed in. Our fuel selector up here should be set to the manual position, and auxiliary boost pumps should be off. All right, fuel selector down here. We want to make sure it's at the fullest tank. Now we are equally balanced at the moment, so it shouldn't be any concern. Emergency locator transmitter, you want to make sure it's in the middle position, which is the armed position. You'll know very, very easily if it's not, because if it's not, you will hear, which, by the way, you would never want to do in real world. Absolutely never. That would actually trigger an emergency locate. So we don't want to do that. All right, stepping back up. The moored or manual override is in the off position. Power control lever is off. The prop lever should be up to full, and condition lever should be set to cutoff, and flap should be retracted. All right, so now we're going to go into a pre-flight systems check. So let's get after it. So we're going to go source selector to the battery position, verify that we have 25 volts or more. Exterior lights, we're going to do a quick lights test on that. Make sure the primary lights illuminate. If you want to test any of the others, you would have to flip those on manually and go out and peek. Let's keep on going here. We want to make sure that our fuel quantity is set to, as we talked about earlier, we want to make sure that we have enough fuel on board and that it is balanced, and or as balanced as can be at least. And let's see here, advisory panel. We want to do a test 1, make sure they come on, and test 2 as well. There we go again. We want to make sure the oxygen light is extinguished, indicating that there isn't a fault with the oxygen system. Obviously, that would be a hard stop. The aircraft would not fly. And let's always make sure as often as possible to clear the master caution and master warning. That way, as after you're going through your test, if you run into an issue, you want to make sure those lights illuminate properly and that you don't think they're blinking from something else. And then clear a warning. All right, and internal lights as required. Obviously, being morning, we don't really need anything here. On the environmental control panel, we want to make sure we do the fault test, make sure that the fault light indicates, or illuminates, I should say. Flaps, we're going to set those to the down position and verify that the flaps actually come down. Moving over to the gear control panel, we want to make sure that the indicator lights both on bus 2 and bus 1 illuminate properly. And on the pitot heaters, we want to make sure that the pitot and pitot 2 and stall heater lights extinguish. So there's pitot, and there we go. And then shut them back off. We obviously don't want them running, and clear that master caution again. And de-icing panel, another lights test here. Make sure that all illuminate, as the lights will illuminate when that particular surface is active. And finally, source selector goes now to the off position. And then at this point, you would do your external walk around and things like that. All right, so external walk around is complete. Now we're ready for the pre-flight before engine start. Now, if you needed to get radio confirmation or clearance, I should say, in order to start the engine, you don't have to flip on all of your electronics in order to do so. As long as the crash bar is up, if you turn the radio master on, radio 1 will power up. Notice radio 2 is still off, but radio 1 will come on. But we're not going to worry about that for today. We're just going to go ahead and get her started. So again, going back up top, we're going to make sure we have enough oxygen pressure to sustain us for the flight. We are good there. Yes, according to the Real World's Pilot's Operational Handbook for the TBM-850, oxygen comes on now. I imagine this is a pressure or altitude triggered system that turns the system on and off as necessary. All right, and stepping back down, microphone switch down here, you want to make sure is guarded in the norm position. Again, starter off, ignition off, landing gear handle is down, just like we did before. And from here, we want the crash bar up, source selector should be off, generator should be set to main. And then now we're going to do the before start. So for the before start, we're going to go to source selector goes to the battery position, generator again to main. You're going to see a lot of repetitive stuff here. Horn test. Make sure that that is audible. Advisory panel, you want to make sure that the door light is extinguished. Clear those master caution, master warning. And let's get on to the fun part. Fuel selector, we want to make sure that goes into the auto position. Auxiliary boost pumps go to on. Verify that you have good fuel pressure. Again, clear the master caution there. And a fuel quantity check. We've already been verified, but we obviously want to double check. ITT, we want to do an ITT test. Make sure that the needle peaks all the way over. If that gauge was not reading properly, that would be a no-go. So we're going to go ahead and just stop that. We'll leave that master warning there. Oh, I clicked it anyway. Never mind. No, we won't. All right. And let's see here. Nav lights and strobe lights on. We're turning the strobe lights on in replacement of the beacon light, as this aircraft does not have one. So moving on down, let's start rocking and rolling here. Once again, the moored or manual override needs to be in the off position. Source selector is already set to battery. Auxiliary boost pumps are on. Fuel pressure is verified. Ignition can now go to the auto position. Starter gets the go ahead and turn on there. Watching the NG, looking for 13%, at which point the condition lever goes to the low idle position. So monitoring, we've got engine rotation. There's 10, 12, and 13. Move that forward. Watching the ITT now. We want to make sure ITT doesn't go above 1,000 degrees for more than 5 seconds and does not stay above 870 degrees for more than 20 seconds. Either of those conditions occur, we would immediately move the condition lever back to the cutoff position. Now we're monitoring for 50% on the NG. Once we get to 50%, move that up into the high idle position. Starter now goes to the off position. Coming back down, verifying oil temperature and oil pressure are good in the green. Engine gauges are all in the green, and engine performance is stabilizing. Clear the master caution now. All right. Letting her sort of stabilize here. All right, good. Auxiliary boost pump can now move to the auto position. Notice that the fuel pressure now drops as the boost pump turns off. On the advisory panel, we want to make sure that with fuel pressure, main gen, and auxiliary boost pump on are all extinguished. Moving upstairs, we want to make sure the voltmeter is indicating 26 volts or more. Battery is charging on the amp meter, but below 50. And we want to make sure, again, master warning, master cautions are cleared. Gyro instruments can now all get flipped on. And we'll now move downstairs. Make sure that the gyro instrument is set to the slave position. And we'll now begin testing the de-icing systems. And this is where we can run into some issues, so we'll see it happen. So first thing we're going to do is test the window. There's the prop. And now on the airframe. So with the airframe, one boot should come on, meaning one wing, and then it should cycle over to the other. We'll give it about 20 seconds. If we don't get any kind of light or indicator here, that could be a sign of a failure. So we're just going to give that 20 seconds, see if it comes on. If it doesn't, we'll have to look at the failures. I'm guessing we have a failure, so let's go ahead and flip that system off, and I'll tell you how we correct that stuff. But again, this is why you always want to check your stuff. Ooh, that should have been the off position. Interesting. So we're going to come this up to the nav position, I believe is where I want to be. Give it a minute. Reset all failures. So we're going to click that. Come back over to our anti-ice. See if it flips on. It says no active failures. Interesting though, we are not getting a response. Let's go check our circuit breaker again. Well, it would definitely seem as a failure to me. However, this could also be a bug. Remember, I am on sim update, or I'm on the beta update, so I guess this would be sim update 14 now. So I am in the beta program, so this could be related to that. So we're going to chalk it up to an issue with the beta, and we'll figure that out moving forward, but that's very interesting. I've had this happen before where it was an actual failure that caused the problem, so let's try this one more time. I'm going to try resetting all failures. Let's do, I'm going to do everything. Refill auction, reset failures. Let's see. Nope. Odd. Alright, well, we tried. Anyway, let's keep on going. I'm gonna say that's very likely an issue with my being on the beta version. Okay, inertial separator should now come to the on position. We'll get a master warning here about that in just a second. Stepping upstairs, Just like we talked about before, amp meter should be below 50. The generators, we're going to move that up to the standby position. Verify that all voltmeter and amp meters are still in their proper ranges. So we should be at 28 plus volts, and amp meter still shows as charging. Generator goes back to the main position. So we verified standby system is working. Master caution will now go ahead and clear that. That's for the inertial separator and moving it from the main to the standby position. The standby will also trigger a master caution. And now let's go ahead and bring our flaps up. There we go, flaps coming up. And bleed air. We'll now go into the auto position. Air conditioning system can now come to the on position, and fan flow can go to auto. And you could also set your cabin pressure altitude if you wanted to right now. However, we're only going to be traveling at about 8,000 feet today. We're not going very high. Doing a VFR flight, just going to have some fun. All right, so let's go ahead and keep working our way down. And weather radar is in the standby or off position. So let's move on down. Radio master can now come to the on position. This should bring absolutely everything to life. And we're going to turn our FS system on as well, and flip the autopilot and trim systems on while we are at it. And if you wish, you can do a test of the electronic trim system, verifying that the elevator trim is functioning properly. As long as you're in the green, you should be good. No worries there. Moving back down. Audio panels you would set as required. The top row up here is what you are listening to, and the bottom row is what you are transmitting on. So we're going to make sure that we are listening to COM 1 and COM 2, even though all of that is simulated for today. And then our transponder, we're going to go ahead and set that to the on position. All right, and let's see what we got. All right, so here at this point we would enter in our flight plan. Now we'll go ahead and just do sort of a direct so we have it ready. Just so we have everything entered. Here goes our destination, and we're heading over to Phoenix. Oops, that is not Phoenix. Yeah, let's go to Chandler. That's a good idea. Whoa, what did I do? Oh, you know what? I think it just started up again. Alright, yeah, let's do that though. Let's fly to Chandler. A little closer. Not quite as far away, and not quite as crazy. That'd be a fun little airport to do a VFR entry into. Alright, clear that. We've got that. Oop, didn't mean to do that again. Gosh darn it, stop doing that. And let's just go to flight plan. There we go. And let's pull that range out. There we go. Golden. Flight plan entered. So we are now ready for taxi. So let's get after it. So again, we're setting our target altitude today for 6,000 feet, or 8,000 feet, excuse me. So let's do 8,000. There we go. Got that locked on the box. We'll go ahead and hit the arm. Beautiful. And let's see here. Flight directors are already turned on, and yaw damper, all that waits. Set our barometric pressure. We're good there, even though we would have got that done already. The ATIS. Verify our source is set to the GPS. You can see it's set to VOR. We actually don't want that. We want GPS. There we go. Inertial separator is on. Weather radar can now go to the standby position. And taxi light can get turned on. Alright, and oh, there's Toby. All right. Okay. Guys have to forgive me. I'm still dialing Toby in, so it may be a little weird. All right, let's make sure flight controls are all working as designed. Good. I got to clear that to release the parking brake. And let's add some power here. And it looks like we even get a nice 1-1 left takeoff today. How beautiful is that? Can't beat that one, man. Seriously, I never get 1-1 left. I always have to taxi down to 29 right. And we are at the very beginning of 1-1 left to give you an idea. And 29 right is obviously at the other end. And this is an 11,000 foot runway. So it's a really boring taxi. Alright, let's do... Whoa, the lag. That was weird. Alright, let's do our before takeoff checklist. Alright, so condition lever is set to the high idle position. Parking brake is set. Terrain advisory warning system. We're also going to throttle up to 1900 RPMs.
Don't sink. 500.
I could have sworn we set that. There, now it is. Alright, right about there. Clear the master warning for the parking brake. We want to feather the prop. We should see a drop of approximately 400 to 500 RPMs. We want to do this twice. And the last piece here, overspeed test. With the overspeed test, you should see a quick RPM drop. It should come right back up. Alright. Let's bring the engine back to idle. Alright, make sure we're taking off on the fullest tank. It looks like we're good. Tanks are balanced. Auxiliary boost pumps are set to auto. Fuel selection is set to auto. Flaps, let's go ahead and set those to takeoff. And taxi out. And let's turn our pitot install heater on. I set our transponder to altitude. Oops. Landing lights next time before you take the runway. Pulse lights now come to on. Remember that the pulse lights rely on the landing light, so you have to have one on to have the other one on. Alright, we are now lined up. And let's go ahead and get rolling. So we're going to take off at 100% torque. I'm looking for 2,000 RPMs. Come on, baby. 95 knots, rotating. Whoa, a little sensitive today. Mercy. All right. Good positive rate gear coming up. There's 115 knots flaps coming up. With the flaps verified as up, we can now move it into 850 mode. Extend our power up to 121% torque. Looking for 130 knots on the climb out. Begin navigating. Got nice clear skies. Go ahead and turn the initial separator off. Make sure you watch your torque, as it will increase with the initial separator turned off. Oh, and it would help if we disabled the yaw damper, or enabled the yaw damper. No wonder why she was flying so goofy. That's why we were reading the after takeoff checklist. Watching that engine torque. I normally ride a little bit below 121 just to give myself a little bit of buffer. Alright, and she has control. I wonder if it's Toby causing the weird frame rate. I don't like it. Maybe we'll disable Toby for a while. We'll just use the mouse to look around. It's a lot easier when we're on the cruise anyway, I guess. Let's go outside. Such a beautiful morning. I love this simulator. I really do. For as much as it upsets the crap out of me, it is very nice. Let's see here. I don't think we have very far to go. Chandler, here to Chandler. Especially doing 220 knots. I guess be about 20 minutes. It's really not bad. Man, it really is giving pretty lean performance though. I'd love to know what that's about. I think it might be time to wipe it and start again. I do that periodically with Microsoft Flight Simulator. All the add-ons and things like that that I play around with and test. Constantly moving services, and different VRs, and different applications. They all leave stuff behind with it. You know, there's no perfect, clean uninstall. I can tell you that right now. I think we're approaching time because I don't think my graphics settings should be that much to worry about. Let's see where we're running here. Man, that all should be good. I mean, DLSS even shouldn't be a problem there. I am running DX11. Although, why are we on high instead of ultra? Let's turn that up. And the only things that I don't usually like are these two. Weird stuttering. I wonder if it's still set to high priority. I thought I had things in place to prevent that from changing, but let's check. Nope, it is set to normal. We'll see if that changes things. Might have a little bit, I can't tell. Again, it's probably likely part of the beta too that I'm on, because just yesterday it was running smooth as glass, so there's no telling. I'll tell you what, guys, we've got quite a few minutes here until we're ready to get going, so I will let you guys enjoy some of the scenery and catch you guys in a little bit. So we're about 19 miles from our destination here. So I tell you what, I'm going to start pulling some power back, get us back below that 100% torque range. And while we're doing that, I'm going to drop us out of 850 mode. We're also going to start a nice little descent. We have airport altitude of that about 1,200 feet, 3,000 foot is the missed approach. Vertical speed, and we're just going to do a nice little descent for right now, about 1,000 feet a minute. I'm going to keep pulling power off to get to about 180 knots. 160 knots is when we can start dropping some flaps, so. Just let her start cruising on down. We can run through some quick checklists here. Alright, so the descent checklist would have looked like field elevation has been set. If we needed, that would be on our elevation control. We didn't use that. Pulse lights are on, landing lights are on, de-icing as required, inertial separator as required, airflow distributor as required as well. Fuel quantity and imbalance check. Fuel gauges are balanced. Auto fuel selector shift to the fullest tank if we needed to. That would be this little button here if necessary. Target altitude set, and altimeters have also been set. We can re-verify. Looks like they changed it by 1 point since I last did it. And so now it's just a matter of bringing her on in. So at this point here, we have come out of 850 mode, below 100% on the torque. Flap switch is still in the up switch, looking for a target of 180 knots. We got a little on the slow side, so we'll go ahead and power this back in just a little bit. Not quite ready to be that slow yet. We are looking good. Let's go ahead and increase that descent rate to about 1,500 feet per minute. Again, reducing some engine power to compensate. And we are getting low, and as long as we're below 200 knots, let's go ahead and turn that inertial separator back on for landing. This is all visual today, guys, so easy stuff is set. Landing lights are on, cabin lights are off, altimeters are set to the local decision height if necessary. None is necessary today as we're doing visual approach. Fuel quantity again checked, anti-icing as required, inertial separator on below 200 knots. There's a master caution for it, and we are now ready for our landing gear. So go ahead and just hang tight for a minute here. Should see Chandler out there about 10 miles. Should be it. Alright, let's start reducing that descent rate. There we go. We're going to move flaps down to the takeoff position. We're going to go ahead and bring the landing gear down. Winds are 180 for 3 knots today in Chandler. Come off the autopilot. Ugh, eye tracking really is weird. Alright, RPM lever is set to the maximum position. Whoa, got really steep there. Did not mean to get that steep. Condition lever obviously in the high position. Landing lights are on. Flaps are set to approach or takeoff position. Yeah, I cannot do this. Ugh. I have got to configure that. I hate the eye tracking. I like the head tracking aspect of it. I hate the eye tracking of it. Don't like that with Toby. I never liked it. I couldn't get into it before. I can't get into it now. Gosh, I'm getting bounced around. And there it is. Alright. Alright, below 120 knots, go full flaps. Wow, Phoenix is bumpy today. Holy crap. Not see. Looking for 85 knots on the approach. Yaw damper is off. Autopilot's off. Crossing that threshold. Power control over to idle. And Microsoft Flight Simulator had a different wind than the real world did. I know I shouldn't be shocked by that, but it did. Yeah, no, it did. Alright, let's get those flaps up. Either way, we made it down, right? That's the important part. Oops, wrong button. Flight director's off. And she is just really choppy today. Sim is just running like garbage for me. Really hope we figure out what's going on there. Alright. Let's do our after touchdown checklist here. Let me turn this stupid tracker back off. Alright. Alright, parking brake is set for a minute. All de-icing is off. Initial separator needs to be in the on position. We can go ahead and clear that master warning. Bleed air, auto air as required. Weather radar needs to go to the off position. Landing lights now go to the off position. Pulse lights can now go off. We're going to leave the nav and strobe lights on for now. Taxi lights are on. And let's see here. Oxygen supply can now go to the off position. And transponder moved back to the on position as well. And now we will taxi to our parking spot. And I will definitely fix the Tobii eye tracking before our next flight, because that was frustrating. It was just too much. And that's just settings. I know that's just settings. That's just something that I have to tweak. I haven't used it in a while. Like I said, I've never been a big fan of it. I gotta be honest. And it's not that bad. It's really not. It's a great product. I don't know if I'm just used to, you know, track IR so much in VR. I mean, VR certainly changes everything. Yeah, I'm sort of going rogue here. Don't judge me. We're gonna park it right over here. But yeah, Tobii was just, I'm trying to get used to it again, because it is convenient. It's very convenient. But man, I always have struggles with it, and I don't like that you can't use any other track IR with it. You have to disable it, turn all services off. You have to uninstall certain things. Like, it's a pain in the butt. Okay, so let's see here. So now let's walk through our shutdown process. So parking brake is set. Annunciator verifies the parking brake. Taxi light can now go to the off position. Nav and strobe lights can now be turned off. Bleed air switch can now go to the off position as well. And we're going to get all kinds of master cautions, master warnings here. That's okay, guys. Cabin pressure verified as depressurized. Air conditioning system moves to the off position. Airflow system can now go back to the off position. Power level, we want to make sure that it's at idle for at least 1 minute. Fan flow, as we discussed earlier, can remain either in the auto position or it can come down. Gyros can now come to the off position. There we go. Gyros are all off. FS master system can now go to the off position. And autopilot trim and radio masters go to the off position as well. And now that we have verified our RPM lever or our throttle lever, we're going to throttle or feather the propeller for about 15 seconds. And move our condition lever now down into the cutoff position. Okay. And with the engine now in cutoff, although I am... There she goes. Like, that was taking too long, I feel like. Anyway, all right, there she goes. That's what I was expecting to see. All kinds of chimes and things going crazy. Fuel selection should now go back to the manual position. Auxiliary boost pumps can now go to the off position. And we want to make sure the ignition switch is set to auto or off. I'm going to go ahead and set it back down to the off position. All external lights have been turned off. Inertial separator can now go to the off position. De-icing switches, I forgot to shut those off earlier, even though I said it. And let's see here. Source selector can now go to the off position. Generator is verified as main, and the crash bar comes down, which that part always trips me out. It really is in the real world documentation, which doesn't make much sense to me because when you bring the crash bar down, it shuts everything off, right? But there we go. Let's go ahead and deboard our airplane. And hopefully we'll find out why it is running like garbage lately. The sim is really, really upsetting me with that. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We did a nice, fun flight from Tucson over into Chandler in Arizona. That was actually a really peaceful flight. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did as well. As always, folks, stay safe and healthy, and I shall see you in the next one.